In this series, I'm looking at missing children cases. I want to find out what it's like for families who've been through the toughest of ordeals. Whether it's a teenager running away for no apparent reason, a baby abducted and never seen again, or a child vanishing without a trace. I'll be asking the parents of missing children how they found the strength to cope. And as a mum myself, I'm keen to investigate what all parents can do to avoid their child going missing. In this programme, we investigate the case of toddler Ben Needham, who disappeared from his grandparents' farmhouse on the Greek island of Kos in 1991. Ben hasn't been seen since. But first, the mysterious case of Catrice Lee. She vanished into thin air while her mum Sharon was shopping in a local supermarket in 1981. It was Catrice's second birthday and Sharon had taken her daughter to buy some treats for her party. I'm going to look at the devastating effect Catrice's disappearance had on the rest of her family and their continual efforts to find her decades after she went missing. So what was Catrice like? Well, let's find out from the people who knew her best. 55-year-old Sharon Lee is Catrice's mother. She works as an office and HR manager in Gosport, Hampshire. Sharon has many fond memories of her youngest daughter.
Although my daughter's been missing for 28 years this year, if I close my eyes now, I can still see Catrice standing in front of me, a toddler with curly hair and a cheeky grin. She was just a happy little soul, really.
Catrice's sister, Natasha, is 34 and single. She works as an HR assistant and lives near her mum. Natasha was just 7 when Catrice disappeared.
She was a complete terror, but at the same time, as much of a terror as she was really funny, extremely bright for her age. I absolutely doted on Catrice and Catrice doted on me, and you know, I couldn't wait to be home because I literally was that big, proud sister.
Catrice's father, Richard, is 59. He and Sharon separated 13 years after Catrice went missing. He now works as a postman in Hartlepool. Richard was serving in a British Army tank regiment stationed near Paderborn in North Germany when Catrice disappeared.
I just used to look forward at the end of an exercise so I could come home and spoil my children, much to the disgust of Sharon, because there's times that she probably used me as a threat whilst I was out on exercise. Wait till your father gets home, you know, I can imagine it. And then when I got home, all I could do was cuddle and dote on them.
Sharon remembers taking Catrice to the park near where they lived in Germany. It was their second overseas posting.
Swings were her favourite, and small roundabout, you put her on there and turn around very slowly. She'd be quite happy with that. Swings were definitely her favourites. Yeah, happy times.
I wish I'd absorbed sort of like every single moment. I just can't smell her anymore. Everybody's sort of got their own smell. And I don't have that anymore. But just her, all of her. Not one specific moment is special to me. Everything I had was. And I don't have that anymore.
Having your child go missing is extremely rare. Richard's heart goes out to the tiny minority of parents in his position.
I'm a member of an exclusive club of which I didn't want to be a member of. And some people will be watching this that say, it'll never happen to me. That's what I used to say. And look at me.
Catrice will be 30 this year, this November. But to me, she's still my 2-year-old child. And that's how I remember her.
Well, we heard there some precious memories of Catrice, and in a few moments we'll tell the story of her disappearance during a normal family shopping trip. But first, her mum Sharon and sister Natasha have joined me in the studio. And Sharon, I'm sure that day is just etched in your brain.
Yeah.
When she went. What was your first thought when she wasn't there?
I just literally thought, like hundreds of children do, leave their mum's side for a couple of seconds and then you're going to find her. She's going to be there with you. And unfortunately, she never was.
It's so difficult. The worst thing must be you just, you know, both of you just don't know what's happened to her.
That is the worst thing. Time will only heal a wound if you have an answer, but all the time you don't have an answer, then the scar remains open. It doesn't heal, because at the end of the day you have a child that's out there and missing, and you don't know where they are.
Thank you both very much indeed. And after the break, we tell the story of Catrice's mysterious disappearance. We investigate what could have happened to the 2-year-old. And using computer imagery, we reveal what she might look like now. If you think you have any information about where Catrice is, please go to the Sky Real Lives website, where you'll find details of what to do. Or call the Missing People charity on 0500 700 700. And do you know the whereabouts of Ruth Wilson, 16 years old when she went missing from Betchworth in Surrey in 1995? When Ruth disappeared, she was 5 foot 3 inches tall, had dark shoulder-length hair and usually wore glasses. If you have any information, please get in touch. Two-year-old Catrice Lee vanished without a trace during a family shopping trip in 1981. Her disappearance remains a mystery. For Catrice's family, the time since she disappeared has been a torment. Now we hear what happened on that day and the efforts of Catrice's family to find her. Catrice's father Richard was in a tank regiment in the British Army. He'd been stationed in Germany with his wife Sharon and daughters Natasha and Catrice for 2 years. It was Catrice's second birthday, and her mum Sharon and Aunt Wendy took her shopping to buy treats for her party. Richard waited outside the army supermarket, also known as the NAFI.
Catrice wouldn't go in the trolley, so I carried her all the way around the shop. On reaching the checkout, I started loading the shopping, and I said, oh, I've forgotten the crisps.
Sharon went back into the supermarket, leaving Catrice with her Auntie Wendy.
And I said, watch her as I just go and get the crisps. Run back to the crisps stand, which wasn't that far away from the checkout.
Sharon soon returned to the checkout, but Catrice was no longer there.
I said to my sister, where's Catrice? And she said she wanted to follow you. So I let her go just after you went.
Sharon immediately ran back into the shop, calling Catrice's name.
I ran around the supermarket as pushing past people, still calling her, and there was nothing. I got to the checkout and realised that Catrice hadn't gone back to the checkout.
Nearby, a military police officer happened to be paying for her shopping.
So I went over to the checkout, and by this time I was pretty panic-stricken, because although I couldn't see Catrice, I couldn't hear her either. Couldn't hear her crying or anything like that. And I explained to her what has happened, and she said, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it, she's probably in here somewhere. We'll start looking for her.
The military police officer, Sharon, and her sister Wendy searched the supermarket, but Catrice was nowhere to be seen. Outside, Richard uncannily sensed something was wrong.
I stepped out of the car. I got a gut feeling that something just wasn't right. So I then chose to go and see what was going on.
Richard found Sharon in tears. He was told Catrice had gone missing.
The only thing that I could do was a soldier sort of kicking in first. That was the first thing that kicked in, was to grab everyone that I knew from my unit. And we'd done an area search outside immediately.
An intensive search of the immediate area by Richard's army colleagues and the police yielded nothing.
Catrice!
Locals also helped, but Catrice was nowhere to be found. Richard went to break the news to Catrice's 7-year-old sister Natasha, who had stayed at home that day.
Having to go back and tell Natasha her sister was missing. I put that to any parent. How difficult would you find it? And imagine how we found it.
I just remember looking and seeing my mum screaming and screaming. Never heard my mum scream like that before. Never heard her scream like it again. And I can actually see it, and I can hear my mum screaming. It was the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard.
But I always remember that night trying to get her to sleep. Worst feeling.
Catrice's disappearance was hard to explain. There were numerous theories about what could have happened to her, but no definite proof. The family were convinced she'd been abducted, but not everyone was so sure. Richard has spent the last 29 years wondering what happened to his 2-year-old daughter in the Nafi supermarket that day.
We're not naive. She could have been taken away and murdered. But then you look at the aspect of why take a 2-year-old and murder her.
Richard is convinced Catrice was abducted by someone to become a surrogate child for another family, possibly in a neighbouring country like France, Holland or Belgium.
What better opportunity to take a child as a surrogate child than on that particular day all the forces of that garrison had been on a 3-week exercise and everybody and their dog was converging onto the Nafi. What an ideal opportunity.
But the authorities suspected a different explanation for Catrice's disappearance. Their main line of inquiry was that she'd walked to a nearby river, fallen in and drowned.
I believe it would be impossible for a child that was 2 years that day to push her way through a crowded shop, find her way to a door that doesn't have a handle on it, down a corridor, go outside, past a table selling rapper tickets, back down a ramp, past a crowded car park, over a small hedge, down to a riverbank, and throw herself into the water, or fall into the water, without a single soul not seeing it happen.
Amazingly, despite Catrice vanishing in a busy place in broad daylight, her disappearance gained little publicity. In the British press, just one small paragraph 3 days later.
In any missing case, the first 24 hours is the most important. Anyone could have taken her, crossed the border, and any direction. And let's face it, in Germany, there are any numerous exits into different countries that they could have took.
Natasha still feels terrible guilt about that day, even though she was only 7 years old at the time.
Why did I say I didn't want to go shopping? I don't know, because I always went shopping, and I always went shopping with Catrice. We sort of played along the aisles, you know, not far from Mum, but it was me and Catrice all the time. You know, if only I'd have gone shopping that day, then maybe I wouldn't be sat here now speaking to you. You know, I'd have my sister and everything would be sort of hunky-dory, living a normal life.
Well, we saw there what a tough time the Lee family went through following Catrice's disappearance. I'm joined now by Jackie Hames, a former detective sergeant in the Metropolitan Police. Jackie has extensive experience of this kind of case. From your experience, how can parents protect, particularly toddlers, without going over the top and getting the balance right? How can they do that?
It is important to keep in perspective because cases like this are infinitesimally rare. The fact that we remember these cases shows you how rare they are. But, you know, if it happens to you, it's completely devastating. So, you know, you have got to try and keep them in your sight if you possibly can. There are even gadgets you can get these days, which, you know, wristbands that set up an alarm if you're a certain distance away from your child and that sort of thing. If you're going into an area you don't know very well and you're going to be spending some time there, maybe something like that gives you that bit of peace of mind.
And if it does happen, heaven forbid, if it did actually happen to you, what should you do? What's the first thing that you should do?
Well, if it's, for instance, you know, with the circumstances around Catrice, you suddenly disappeared, you've got to sort of get her description, known to as many people as you possibly can in the immediate vicinity. Obviously, calling for police help or assistance can help, but obviously it's going to take that time for them to get there. So the more people you can tell in immediate range, and really the description is the key thing.
Jackie, thank you very much indeed. Right, nearly 3 decades on from Catrice's disappearance, her family are trying to get on with their lives while at the same time never giving up hope of finding her. We went to visit them at home.
This is a little girl called Catrice Lee.
Catrice's father, Richard, watches a documentary made in the early 80s about her case. His appearance may have changed, but his anger that there wasn't more publicity at the time remains.
Are you certain you'll see Catrice again? I'm positive.
Provided I get the backing that is required.
You've got her bedroom still full of all Catrice's toys, of her pictures. Do you ever think that you may never see your daughter again?
No. I intend to go on fighting for Catrice until I find out what happened to her.
Supposing there's just no hope, supposing that fight takes years and years.
If it has to take years and years, then I'm prepared to carry on. You can't go on living life without an answer. You know, it's a terrible thing to have to live with.
Sharon is a very spiritual person. Her search for answers has even led her to consult psychics.
75% say that she's still with us in this world. And 25% say that she's not, she's in the next. So I just keep an open mind about it.
Sharon has steadfastly refused to have a memorial service or a headstone for Catrice.
I don't need to have a memorial service or a shrine to my daughter because I feel that shrines and memorial services are for dead people. And my daughter most definitely isn't dead.
Catrice's sister Natasha is determined to do everything she can to find her. Last year, she wanted to raise money for the campaign, so she did a sponsored 10,000-foot parachute jump. It created conflicting emotions for her mum.
In my position, I really, really didn't want her to do it. And how she did it, I don't know. Tasha is A, scared of heights and B, terrified of flying. But when she did it, she was absolutely amazing. I was so terribly proud of her.
I'm never very consistent with things, but this is the only thing that I'm driven to do. And I have to try and think of ways to constantly keep the media interested. So hence I've had the mug printed and the T-shirt and the bumper sticker so that I can now approach the press with something else that I've had done.
My heart was in my mouth, so I have no idea where Natasha's was when she jumped from the plane. It was lovely to be part of it. She tells me she wants to do wing walking lifts, but I don't even want to go to that one, thank you.
Catrice's family yearn for answers and will continue to do so until they get them.
My mum's been through so much, the same as my dad. It's the heartbreak and the torment and the sorrow, really, of not knowing where their daughter is. And it would just be nice for us to finally have an answer.
She is out there somewhere or over here, and at the end of the day, we will find her, we will get her back. So I say to those people that are in the know, please give us the answers that we want. Somebody knows something, and she's out there. We want her, and we'll get her back.
Richard, you've got this hope, you've got this optimism. You do think that you'll see her again one day?
Well, yeah, I always believed it from the very start.
She would be 30 this year.
Yep.
It's extraordinary when you think about it. We've got a colourised age progression picture of her.
Right.
Hopefully this is what she would look like. Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what we think she might look like. What do you think?
Oof.
And how do you feel looking at that now?
Well, I'm quite pleased, actually. If this is a likeness and there's, you know, somebody out there knows something, it gives them something to look at. Not going back too far, everyone was still envisaging a 2-year-old girl, but now here we are and we're talking about a young woman, which is what realistically we're talking about. We need to be looking for a young woman, not 2-year-old Catrice anymore.
Are there any other clues that perhaps people should know about if they maybe think that maybe, who knows, you know, she might be watching, we don't know. Any other clues about what she looked like, any distinguishing marks, anything like that?
Catrice has got a squint in her eye, the same as me. The chances are she will have had to have had at least 2 eye operations. I've had 2. And she will also have a birthmark on her back that looks like a rash, because we've got matching birthmarks.
Really?
Yeah.
Anybody that's watching that thinks this might ring a bell, that this perhaps they know something, what would you say to them?
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and where a rumour starts, there could be a truth at the end of it. And we're living in probably the worst situation that we can live in. I mean, to you, missing means that you can't find it. Missing to me means neither dead or alive.
And you need to find out one way or another. You do. The whole family does, don't you?
We do.
And what would it mean to both of you for one day for her to walk through the door?
The world.
Christmas over and over.
All your birthdays come at once.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you
very much indeed. Thank you. And after the break, we hear about another child who mysteriously went missing abroad. Toddler Ben Needham vanished from his grandparents' farmhouse on the Greek island of Kos in 1991 and hasn't been seen since. If you think you have any information about where Catrice is, please go to the Sky Real Lives website, where you'll find details of what to do. Or call the Missing People charity on 0500 700 700. This age progression uses photos of Catrice as a child and pictures of other family members to predict what she may look like now at the age of 30. And do you know the whereabouts of Alexander Slowly, who was 16 when he went missing from Islington, London in 2008? When Alexander disappeared, he was 5 foot 5 inches tall, of slim build, with blue eyes and black hair. If you have any information, please get in touch. A child going missing must be traumatic enough for the parents, but when it happens overseas with all the added stresses that involves, it must make a devastating situation even worse. Toddler Ben Needham was just 21 months old when he vanished from his grandparents' farmhouse on the Greek island of Kos in 1991. Ben hasn't been seen since. I'm going to look at the emotional impact of Ben's disappearance on his family. I'll also explore what it's like for traumatised parents to suddenly find themselves in the full glare of the media spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Later, we hear the story of the day Ben disappeared. But first, let's find out what he was like as a youngster. 37-year-old Kerry Needham is Ben's mother. When she fell pregnant, she was just 17 and having problems with her boyfriend. But she was still looking forward to being a mum.
When I found out I was pregnant with Ben, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. It was quite scary. To think 17 years old, to be having a baby. But when I got confirmation from the doctors, I skipped all the way home. I was really, really happy, really happy.
Kerry's mother, Christine, was with her when Ben was born at their local hospital in Lincolnshire.
When Ben was first born, I stayed with Kerry the whole time, and it was an amazing feeling to be watching that and being part of it. Gives you that extra bond, doesn't it? It felt like it was my baby as well as Kerry's baby.
We cried for hours, just looking over him. Can't believe that such a beautiful little thing.
Ben soon became a real character.
When he was small and starting to do stuff, he was incredibly mischievous, and he was just very, very active and laughing. He laughed the whole time. He was lovely, a lovely little boy. A real joy.
Very happy times. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. And somebody took it all away.
seeing that, Ben really was the kind of boy that just captured people's hearts. He was an adorable child.
Oh, he was amazing. He's always wanted to be the centre of attention. If you weren't looking at him and watching what he was doing, he did something to make you look at him and laugh at him.
And 19 years. Does that even... That must feel so strange for you, 19 years. Has it gone by in a flash? Or does it still feel like yesterday to you that he disappeared?
Different days, different feelings. Some days it feels like yesterday. The pain, you can wake up in the morning and the pain of that loss that you feel that day is unbearable, and you think it was like yesterday.
I think it's like that. I think it's like that, yeah.
And then other days when you've been busy and you've had lots of things to do, and it's like, God, 19 years.
The fact that you have fought so hard and you just won't stop.
I won't stop. I won't let them have the satisfaction. I just won't. Ben deserves to know the truth, even if you know, he doesn't come back and live with me or our family. He deserves to know what happened to him. I didn't give him away or, you know, didn't love him. Somebody stole him from me, and he deserves to know that. He has to know that. And that we all love him, all our family love him and want to see him desperately.
You've been extraordinarily brave. You really
Tried
have.
to.
And what keeps you going, though? Is it
The
just...
love for him.
OK, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much indeed. Let's now hear the story of Ben's disappearance. When Ben was 21 months old, Kerry decided to move to the Greek island of Kos to join her parents and younger brothers who were already living there. But Kerry's dreams of a new life in the sun were soon to turn into a nightmare. Kerry was unhappy in her relationship with Ben's father and felt she needed a fresh start. She decided to join her mum, dad and brothers who had immigrated to Kos a year earlier because they wanted a life in the sun.
I thought a better life for Ben, you know, better education. He'd be able to speak different languages, he'd have the sunshine, he'd be able to play. I just thought he'd have the perfect life, perfect upbringing, all of our family together, and Ben would have the best of everything.
The family had to share a caravan, but they were loving the adventure. Kerry worked in a local hotel and asked her mum to look after Ben. But when she said goodbye to him on the 24th of July 1991, she had no idea her life was about to change forever.
Kissed him, said goodbye, I'll see you at dinner time, and went off to work, like I had done for many other mornings before that.
Kerry's dad was a builder and he was renovating their farmhouse with her brother Stephen. Ben's gran took him up to see the building work and to have a picnic.
You know, they sat and ate lunch, and Ben was coming in and out of the doorway and making everybody laugh as usual.
And then I went inside for something, and my son, Stephen, left on the motorbike to go and get a shower. I remember thinking, just thinking, he's really quiet.
And about 5 minutes, Mum says, probably not even 5 minutes, Ben had not been back inside.
And kids always go quiet when they've got something really interesting, what they shouldn't have. Just an instinct. And he wasn't there. Ben? Ben? Couldn't believe he wasn't there, even at that time. He can't be far.
Ben! So Mum thought that, you know, maybe he chased after Stephen on the motorbike.
And I looked down the road. I only went halfway down the road and turned back and thought, he can't have got this far. I'm going in the wrong direction.
And Mum said, well, Stephen must have taken him on the bike then, with him.
It was my only thought. He must have took him for a ride.
After an hour, Kerry's parents started to worry why Stephen hadn't brought Ben back. They went to find him, but it took all afternoon to track him down.
He said, I didn't take him on the bike. And then that moment in time, it's like your life's ended.
Christine went to the local police, who took her to the hotel where Kerry worked 2 miles away.
She was hysterical, crying, shouting, screaming. I've lost Ben. You know, what do you mean you've lost him? She went, I can't find him.
Kerry and the rest of the family returned to the farmhouse with the police to continue the search for Ben.
We just went around looking in dikes and ditches.
It was a really weird and awful night. One of the worst nights of my life. Just sat waiting for something, waiting for anything. Scary, very scary.
It's going dark. Where is he? I don't know. I was just going mad. Really mad. Because someone's alone and they're a baby, aren't they? You're supposed to be there to keep them at night time, aren't you? It's really bad. Sorry.
The family and police searched the 112 square mile island for days. The days turned into weeks, but Ben was nowhere to be found.
Our whole world fell apart there and then. And every day after that is a blur of existence. Just going through the motions of everyday life, if you can. Wandering the streets, shouting.
The Needhams started handing out missing posters, but many locals felt they should have taken better care of Ben in the first place. Some thought Ben had been allowed to wander away in the hostile terrain, maybe falling into the sea. These accusations of neglect made the family feel isolated.
The weeks turned into longer weeks, just basically trying to survive with nothing. No money, no strength, no help, no support. We were alone.
After 6 weeks with the family's money running out and the investigation apparently going nowhere, Kerry and her parents took the incredibly hard decision to return home and carry on the fight here in the UK.
When we left, it was like you was leaving him there, do you know what I mean? Well, what if he's still there somewhere in somebody's house? What if he's there and we're going now? What can we do? We didn't have a choice. If we had a choice, if we had more support, we probably would still be there looking now.
Kerry kept on the fight to find Ben from home. She wrote an appeal to anyone travelling to Greece to keep an eye out for him. There were hundreds of sightings of boys that resembled Ben from all over Greece. Some the Needhams could rule out straight away if the photo was clear and the boy looked too different. But some needed further investigation.
You couldn't tell from that photograph, so we had to go out. I think this one was Rhodes. We had to go out there, but I mean, we couldn't even trace him because he was just a little blonde boy on a beach. He could have just been on holiday with his family.
In 1998, some holidaymakers even snatched hair from a blonde boy they thought might be Ben for DNA analysis.
A blurred image of the boy who could be her son and a single hair plucked from his head by suspicious holidaymakers has given Kerry Needham new hope. For 7 years, she and her family have scoured the Greek islands looking for Ben. He was just 21 months old when he was kidnapped from Kos in 1991. There have been hundreds of alleged sightings, but now one hair may provide the proof photographic images can't.
I'm not convinced, no, but I'm not ruling it out either. I can't afford to do that.
4-year-old Lee Anna has never seen the big brother she so resembles. Now her family hope the DNA test on the hair may reunite them all.
But it proved to be another false alert. The DNA test showed it wasn't Ben's hair. At one point, this cycle of hope and despair proved too much for Kerry.
I tried to commit suicide, but I don't think it was actually wanting to die. I just wanted the pain to go away. You don't want to live in that world anymore. You don't want to be a part of it because it's too painful. It's an awful, really longing, aching pain, in your mind and your heart. It's really awful.
What made it even more traumatic for Kerry was the media thrusting her into the public eye. Suddenly, total strangers thought they had the right to criticise her.
I remember I was on a bus going to town with my brother and we just laughed about something. I can't even remember what we laughed about, but I laughed and Somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You should be at home grieving. You shouldn't be laughing." And it was like, my God, is that what my life is going to be like now? From now on then, I can never smile, I can never laugh, I can never ever be happy again. That was difficult to deal with.
Kerry's daughter Leanna was born 3 years after Ben disappeared, when Kerry and Ben's father were briefly back together. She's seen the emotional impact on the whole family.
If the day comes where we find Ben, it would pull us all together again. This is the only thing that ever pushes our family apart. Everyone blames themselves. My nan blamed herself, my granddad blamed himself, to the point where my nan was ill, but it wasn't their fault. But no one's come to terms with that.
The guilt now is unbearable sometimes. Kerry doesn't blame me, you know, she doesn't. It's still hard.
Well, we saw there the profound impact a child disappearing has on the family in the years that follow. I'm joined now by psychologist Gladina McMahon, who specialises in this field. And Gladina, as we said, it's not just the direct family, it affects everybody, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because wherever you are in the family, all of a sudden you're going to have some impacts. So, for example, if your brother or sister goes missing and you happen to be there at the time, you may feel, I'm the older brother, I should have looked after them, or I should have done something. Or even if a child is born after a child goes missing and they grow up with a ghost. They grow up with a child in the family that they've never met, and there's always that kind of sense of another person, and yet someone that they can't really relate to, apart from the stories and the photographs, etc. So everyone gets impacted emotionally.
And when Ben disappeared, this meant that his mum, in particular, was thrust into the media. And that can be a bit of a double-edged sword, can't it?
On the one hand, you desperately want to use this because it is amazing and we can get round the world and in a way that we never could before. So in that sense, why would you not want everyone to know? Of course you do. But what you're not psychologically prepared for is the 24/7 scrutiny. You know, if you are seen in a cafe, for example, having a cigarette and a cup of coffee, then that could be, maybe this parent isn't caring so much. Right. You know, when really you just need a break for 5 minutes because you're just about to go insane. So I think that certainly the media it can help a lot, but I think also there are dangers associated with using it.
Gladina, thank you very much indeed. And after the break, we visit Kerry's family at home to see how they're coping now, and we reveal a computer-enhanced image of what Ben may look like if indeed he is still alive. If you think you have any information about where Ben is, please go to the Sky Real Lives website where you'll find details of what to do, or call the Missing People charity on 0500 700 700. And do you know the whereabouts of Carmel Finech, 16 years old when she went missing from Crawley, Sussex in 1998? When Carmel disappeared, she was 5 feet tall with black bobbed hair and brown eyes. She has a 2-inch scar on her forehead. If you have any information, please get in touch. Before the break, we looked at the case of abducted toddler Ben Needham. He was 21 months old when he vanished without trace on the Greek island of Kos in 1991. It's now nearly 2 decades since Ben's disappearance. So how are his family coping, and what are they still doing to try to trace him? Ben's mother, Kerry, now runs a garden fencing company, but her campaign to find him continues. She's written to the Queen, the Home Office, the Foreign Office, and every Prime Minister since Ben disappeared.
The campaign will go on as long as I'm breathing. And I think if it takes me to the end of my days, my daughter Leanna will carry it on as well. She's got a brother out there. The love that she has for him is unbelievable, to say that she's never met him.
Kerry's daughter Leanna is now 15 years old. She's certain that one day she will meet her brother for the first time.
It's in my heart. It's in my heart that I know that he's out there somewhere. I just know. It's just... I just know that he's out there somewhere.
Leanna feels enormous pressure to try to reduce the emotional strain on her mum.
I do everything that I can to try and please her so that she doesn't have to feel any pain anymore. But I do my best. She means the world to me and I'd hate to upset her.
The mother-daughter bond between Christine and Kerry is as strong as ever.
Maybe if this tragedy hadn't happened to us, maybe we wouldn't have... Well, we're always being close, but it makes you cling together.
Kerry vows to continue the search for Ben as long as it takes.
I get a feeling that says, not long now. Not long now. Something drives me to carry on.
Maybe Ben will find us, you see. That's our hope. With the Facebook and computers and how old he is, they're all on that sort of site now. Just maybe he'll find us.
18 years, nearly 19, is a long time to live one day at a time without your child. So if I thought that he wasn't alive, I would end the pain myself and stop searching. But I know he's out there, so I won't stop.
Not maybe in my years, but I think for Kerry, I think it may happen for her.
Little baby.
We've got a computerised age progression of what Ben might look like now that he's 19. Do you want to see it?
Yes, please.
Okay. See what you think. This is what we think he might look like.
Wow.
What do you think looking at that?
Wow, that's amazing.
Do you think that might be what he would look like now from what you remember of him?
The eyes, obviously. The eyes are there. It's like he's a man, isn't he?
Very handsome young man. Very handsome young man.
That's really scary, isn't it?
Characteristics that he's got, like birthmarks, things like that.
He's got birthmarks. Yeah, he's got like a strawberry mark in the nape of his neck here, and then just above his right knee, isn't it? It's like a little, like a coffee stain.
We don't know where he is. He's out there somewhere. You're convinced he's out there somewhere. If he is watching, or anybody that might know him, what would you be saying to them?
Oh, get in touch. Get in touch.
Even if it turns out to be a false alarm, it's better for somebody to give us something for us to check it out.
And obviously, if he's watching himself, if you think that could be you, then I'm your mum. Get in touch, yeah? Come and find me. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Having your child go missing abroad is incredibly rare, and our hearts must go out to those families who go through this terrible ordeal. But in a way, the world is getting smaller, and there may be people watching this programme who know something about Catrice or Ben. What happened to them, perhaps even where they are now. If you know anything about either of these cases, go to the website or call the number on the screen now, where you'll find information about what to do next. Remember Catrice's eye problem? That will have needed surgery, and Ben's strawberry-type birthmark in the nape of his neck? That will still be there. If you have any information, please contact us. You could transform many people's lives. Till next time, take care.
For more information and to find out how you could help, head to sky.com/reallives, where you'll find a link to a website specifically dedicated to this topic.